40 years of military service had forged me into a man of patience, precision, and above all, unyielding loyalty. My team of 4 elite operatives waited for my signal, each one handpicked, not just for their unmatched skills, but for the unbreakable dedication that mirrored my own. Target neutralized, came the whispered confirmation through my earpiece, a quiet victory that echoed the countless battles I'd led. Another triumph for Blackwater Solutions, the private military company I'd built from the ground up 25 years ago after retiring from the Army Rangers. What began as a modest security outfit had blossomed into a multi-million-dollar powerhouse, catering to high-profile clients who demanded nothing less than absolute discretion. Back home in Denver, my life appeared flawless, a testament to the self-respect I'd earned through decades of sacrifice. Barbara Adams, my wife of 15 years, kept our sprawling suburban home in impeccable order. My daughter Sarah, now 25, and thriving in her freelance data analysis career, filled my world with pride. It was the American dream realized, or so I convinced myself. Barbara had been everything I'd needed when we met during those early days of expanding Blackwater. She'd consulted on business logistics for a shared client, her sharp intellect and composed grace drawing me in like a beacon after the loss of my first wife. Her auburn hair and infectious laugh, Sean, had reignited a spark in me. She'd stood by my side through endless, high-stakes contracts, helped nurture Sarah in the wake of tragedy, and celebrated every achievement with what I believed was heartfelt pride. But my successes had widened the chasm between us. Missions stretched on for weeks, sometimes months, demanding the full measure of my devotion. I could sense Barbara growing weary of the waiting, the solitude, the pretense of being the ideal executive wife. It started innocently enough, lunches with friends, evening book clubs, weekend spa retreats. But her absences lengthened, her excuses grew thinner, chipping away at the foundation of trust I'd built my life upon. Malcolm's story had slipped into our world 2 years ago as the business partner of Barbara's brother Rick. Charming, affluent, and perpetually at hand, Malcolm oversaw a thriving construction firm inherited from his father. Unlike me, burdened by decisions that weighed lives in the balance, Malcolm reveled in carefree extravagance, splurging on luxury cars and opulent gatherings. What I didn't yet know was that his enterprise masked a web of money laundering tied to criminal syndicates. His suave exterior concealed a savage drive, and his alliance with Rick Adams had swiftly morphed from legitimate partnership into shadowy collusion. Sarah had always been my anchor, my daddy's girl, even as she forged her independent path. Gifted with my keen eye for detail and her mother's emotional acuity, she was a force in her own right. Lately, though, she'd picked up on shifts in Barbara's demeanor. Those secretive phone calls, lavish gifts from unexplained sources, a mounting edge whenever my name arose. 3 weeks back, Sarah had stumbled upon Barbara's affair by sheer chance while sifting through anomalous financial patterns in our family accounts for one of her freelance projects. She'd traced digital breadcrumbs to footage of Malcolm and Barbara locked in an intimate moment in our kitchen. The revelation had stunned her into silence, but the aftermath was darker. Malcolm had detected her probing and issued chilling threats if she dared inform me. "Your daddy's made plenty of enemies in his line of work," he'd sneered with icy composure. "It'd be tragic if they learned about your freelance endeavors." Sarah had held her tongue, bearing the crushing burden as she witnessed our family unravel. She'd seen the depth of my love for Barbara, my visions of semi-retirement to reclaim time with those I cherished, my unwavering faith that our life was as solid as it appeared. Meanwhile, Rick Adams, Barbara's brother and Malcolm's accomplice, had grown paranoid about their schemes. Fresh federal probes into dubious construction bids had rattled him, prompting demands that Malcolm sever ties with Barbara before my military intelligence contacts invited scrutiny. Yet Malcolm's fixation on Barbara had deepened into peril. What began as a fleeting indiscretion had twisted into obsession, blinding him to reason. He deluded himself that she'd abandoned me at the opportune moment. Despite her protests that she wasn't prepared to shatter our family, The strain in the Adams household had escalated to a precipice. Even amid my travels, I'd begun detecting the fissures, Barbara's escalating expenditures, her sudden passions aligning perfectly with my absences, and most alarmingly, Sarah's uncharacteristic reticence about her stepmother. On this crisp October evening, I was meant to be in Kuwait for 3 more weeks. A sudden mission pivot had brought me home ahead of schedule, a chance I intended to seize for a romantic interlude with Barbara and meaningful moments with Sarah. Instead, I stepped into an empty house, greeted by a scrawled note citing a book club crisis. As I settled in my study, poring over mission debriefs and charting Blackwater's growth, I remained oblivious that my meticulously crafted world teetered on ruin. Upstairs, Sarah lay restless, grappling with her discovery and the mounting conviction that action was imperative before catastrophe struck. The arena was primed for a clash that would challenge every tenet I'd upheld, every bond I'd forged, every tactical mastery I'd honed. But truth demanded revelation first. And truth, as I'd learned across 40 grueling years in the field, cut deeper than any foe's blade. To our wonderful viewers, we would love to know where in the world you are from. Let us know. Now let's continue the story. Upstairs, though I didn't know it yet, Sarah stared at her bedroom ceiling, the clock glowing 11:47 p.m. Her stepmother was still absent from yet another book club, and my unexpected return from Kuwait had ignited a crisis she could no longer bury. She'd gathered evidence from her financial tracking, irrefutable proof of the affair, and resolved to tell me her loyalty to our bond, overriding the fear Malcolm had instilled. I heard the garage door rumble open around 12:15 a.m., the sound cutting through the silence like a warning. Footsteps followed, and I rose, drawn by instinct honed over 40 years. Peering from the shadows, I watched Barbara emerge from Malcolm's sleek black Mercedes, hastily smoothing her clothes, checking her reflection in the mirror. The intimacy in their gestures, his hand on her waist, her laugh at his whisper, twisted something deep in my gut, a betrayal of self-respect I'd fought wars to preserve. But it was the voices from the hallway that shattered the illusion. Malcolm had followed her inside his audacity, a slap to my dignity. "He's supposed to be gone for 3 weeks," Barbara whispered urgently. "His gear's here, Barb. The man's home." Malcolm's tone carried a menace I'd faced in darker fields. "He'll kill us both if he finds out," she replied, her casual dismissal chilling me to the core, like I was a mere obstacle, not the man who'd built a life around her. "Not if we handle this right," Malcolm countered. "Rick's been saying we need to deal with the Nathaniel problem anyway. Maybe this is our chance." Their words hung like smoke, transforming my home into enemy territory. This wasn't mere infidelity, it was a calculated assault on everything I held sacred. I emerged from the study, the hallway thickening with tension as I faced my wife and this intruder at nearly 1:00 a.m. "Interesting book club meeting," I said, my voice steady with that deadly calm forged in fire experience, teaching me fury was a weapon, not a weakness. Malcolm, instead of backing down, puffed up with aggression. "Look, Adams, we need to talk about some changes." "The only change," I interrupted, "is you leaving my house now." What unfolded next would haunt me, a whirlwind replaying in my mind for years. Barbara stepped in between us, not to shield me but him. "Nathaniel, please, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I replied, my tone turning to ice. The man who'd survived ambushes and led men through hell now faced betrayal in his own sanctuary. Malcolm pulled his phone, summoning 2 burly enforcers within minutes, his so-called bodyguards reeking of criminal underbelly I hadn't yet uncovered. "This can go easy or hard, old man," one growled. "Mr. Story's offering your wife a better life. Time to step aside." Outnumbered, I refused to yield, my training kicking in. Experience gave me the edge, precise strikes using the confined space to my advantage, dodging their brute force with tactical grace rather than youthful brawn. In the chaos, Sarah crept downstairs, her maturity shining as she activated a recording on her phone, desperate to capture evidence for me. That's when Malcolm spotted her. The girl's seen too much, he snarled, his facade crumbling. Hands seized her. She screamed for me, the sound piercing my soul. They hurled her down the stairs as punishment, her head cracking against the banister shoulder, twisting bruises blooming where fingers dug in. "Touch my daughter and I'll hunt you to the ends of the earth," I roared, fury igniting a fire that age couldn't dim. But they dragged me toward the door. "Consider this a warning," Malcolm spat. "Next time we won't be so gentle. Barb's coming with me and you're letting her." The girl's insurance. Anything happens to us, she pays. They left Sarah crumpled at the stairs base, barely conscious, forcing me outside into the night. She managed to dial 911 before blacking out, her last thought, a vow to protect me as I'd always protected her. The hospital blurred into X-rays, probing questions and terror that I'd lost her forever. When I burst into the emergency room, cut stinging knuckles raw. My eyes locked on Sarah alive, but marked by their cruelty. A cold, calculating rage I'd buried since my Ranger days surfaced, promising payback that would taste all the sweeter for their arrogance. "Dad," she whispered as I reached her bedside. "I caught Mom with Uncle Rick's partner, Malcolm, in your bed earlier through the financial tracks I was following. When I tried to tell you tonight, his bodyguards were there. They threw me down the stairs. They said you're their next target to eliminate." The doctor leaned in, voice grave. "She has finger marks on her neck, Mr. Adams. This wasn't an accident." Her words transformed me, the devoted father eclipsed by the warrior legends whispered about in hushed tones. I pulled my phone, typing a single word: home. Kissing her forehead, I vowed her safety. In that moment, Malcolm and Barbara's fatal error crystallized. They'd mistaken a seasoned guardian for a fragile relic. I strode out of the emergency room with the deliberate stride of a hunter, closing in each step measured to preserve the fire building within. The cool Denver night air hit my face like a slap, sharpening my senses. The distant hum of traffic, the metallic tang of blood on my knuckles, the ache in my bones reminding me that at 65, vengeance would demand strategy over brute force. But that fury, cold and unyielding, fueled me as I slid into my truck, the engine's roar echoing my resolve. Sarah was safe for now, guarded by hospital security I'd arranged. But the traitors who'd marked her neck with their cowardice, they'd soon learn the cost of crossing a man who'd built an empire on loyalty. The drive through empty streets blurred into focus, my mind already mapping contingencies. Blackwater Solutions loomed in the industrial district, a fortress I'd erected 25 years ago from the ashes of my military career. A sanctuary for operators like me, where trust was currency and betrayal a death sentence. My phone buzzed, relentlessly responses to that single word: home. Protocols activated, shadows stirring. By the time I pulled into the lot, 4 vehicles waited, silhouettes of my protégés emerging under the floodlights. Drew Randolph, 45, and my steadfast second-in-command met me at the door, a former Navy SEAL I'd mentored through his raw early days, his surveillance expertise now a blade I'd wielded countless times. Flanking him, Jordan McGee, 40, our explosives wizard with a knack for controlled chaos. Preston Mears, 38, the cyber genius whose fingers danced over keys like I once did over maps. And Troy Hess, 42, our weapons tactician, steady as the rifles he mastered. "Sir," Drew said, falling in beside me, the old military rhythm snapping into place despite our civilian veneer. "In crises like this, we weren't a company, we were a unit forged under my guidance." The war room hummed to life as I laid it bare, the affair. The ambush, Sarah's assault, the orchestrated threat to my family. No omissions. Each detail a spark igniting their outrage. Background on Malcolm's story. I ordered my voice steady, drawing on 40 years to keep emotion from clouding judgment. Preston's keyboards flew screens blooming with data. Malcolm David's story, 55, inherited story construction from his father 30 years ago, valued at $50 million on paper, but the financials reek of anomalies. Drew leaned in. "Define anomalies." Revenues dwarf project scales, massive profits from the thin contracts. Shell companies offshore havens, deals with phantom entities. Jordan crossed his arms. Money laundering. Affirmative. Preston confirmed. And it deepens municipal contracts rigged via Rick Adams, Barbara's brother, leveraging his city planning role. The pieces snapped into place, a puzzle that chilled my blood. This wasn't mere infidelity, it was Barbara and her 55-year-old brother enabling Malcolm's empire perhaps for decades. Rick Adams, I said quietly. More data surged. Richard Rick Adams, 55, oversees permits and zoning, recently bought a house triple his salary. Gambling debts to unsavory lenders. Troy silent till now broken. Rick's compromise needs cash. Malcolm craves city access. Rick greases the wheels, Malcolm pays up in Barbara. I finish the truth, a bitter blade. Serves as the shield. Marrying into my world with its intelligence, ties bought them federal insulation, opportunistic, not some grand setup from the start. Drew nodded grimly, but your early return cracked the facade. Malcolm's greed wants Barbara and you erased. The bodyguard, I pressed. Preston pivoted. Facial rec from home cams running. Screens refreshed Daryl Steele and Eugene Petty rap sheets thick with assault intimidation ties to the Kowalski crime family, Denver's underground overlords and drugs gambling rackets. The name tensed the room. If Malcolm swam in those waters, this eclipsed a simple affair. We're staring at organized crime, corruption, family threats, Jordan summed. I rose scanning monitors, my mind racing through options, risks, weighed responses, calibrated the strategic web I'd spun in war zones, now turning inward. Drew ventured carefully. Sir, federal involvement, Ryko racketeering. No, I declared final as a command. Investigations drag on for months, years. They laid hands on Sarah, my blood. We settle this in-house. Troy pressed your plan. Malcolm deems himself invincible, dirty cops, officials, crime backing. Intimidating me solves his woes. My smile was ice, the sweet promise of reversal stirring. He'll discover the gulf between bullying civilians and provoking a mentor with protégés like you. Preston's alert chimed, movement at your house, Malcolm's Mercedes back inside with Barbara. The gall stunned mere hours after the assault, claiming my territory like conquerors. Establishing dominance, Drew observed. Power play. Then counter it smartly, I replied. He plays chess, thinking we're checkers. Time to flip the board. As dawn edged the horizon, I plotted what the trusting husband of yesterday couldn't fathom, destroying their foundations, first a calculated unraveling that would make their downfall all the sweeter. Malcolm's story lounged in what had been my bedroom, watching Barbara pack her things with the smug arrogance of a man claiming spoils from a battle he hadn't truly won. He exuded the false confidence of inherited wealth, but the micro cameras my team had planted during last night's chaos captured every damning detail, the way he sprawled on my bed, the possessive glint in his eye as she folded clothes into suitcases. From the Blackwater war room, I studied the feeds with the patience of a sniper. At 65, the glow of screens casting harsh shadows across my face, each pixel a reminder of the life they tried to steal. The audio crackled clearly. Malcolm on his phone plotting with someone called Uncle Joey, likely Joseph Kowalski. The crime family's head muttering about loose ends and ensuring the soldier boy posed no further threat. Elimination, not mere scare tactics. Good. Their overreach would make dismantling them all the sweeter, a poetic reversal where their greed became the noose. Let them feel in control. I said, my voice low, surprising the team with a grim satisfaction. Jordan glanced up. Status on story construction. Preston's screens flickered as he unleashed his creativity, hacking into their insurance databases, twisting clauses on criminal activity to flag alerts, scrambling supplier orders, flooding 17 sites with unwanted concrete deliveries. and glitching the payroll to trigger triple overtime payouts, freezing accounts in review. Drew arched a brow. Glitch. The kind I engineer, Preston replied with a smirk. Banks halted transactions and chaos was brewing without a single shot fired. Troy frowned. Why business first, not direct? I leaned forward, the strategic thrill cutting through my emotional storm, the raw ache of Barbara's facade cracking the fire of reclaiming self-respect. Malcolm thinks like a thug, violence and bluster, but power roots in money and tastes. Shatter those and he's exposed delusions crumbling. That's the sweet part, outsmarting him at his own game. Preston's speakers crackled. Incoming Rick Adams at the house looking rattled. Audio surged Rick's voice frantic. Malcolm, problems. The FBI's sniffing city planning irregularities, permits under fire. Malcolm's confidence wavered. What questions? The kind implying digs into our records. Worse audit notices on 3 shelves this morning. My team exchanged glances. We hadn't tipped feds, so another player circled, heightening the intrigue. Trace those calls, I commanded. Preston dove in. Agent Lauren Benson, 45 financial crimes, 8 months on construction corruption. Malcolm is under scrutiny, our moves accelerating the noose. Desperation breeds errors. I agreed, the emotional weightlifting slightly replaced by the cold rush of impending justice. Troy assessed, if it turns kinetic, his tablet showed schematics, 4 bodyguards total, Steel Petty, 2 more street-level thugs, not pros. Handguns, shotguns, basic. Jordan cut in. Police chatter spiking fights at Malcolm's hangouts, his crew clashing with unknowns. Not our op, shadows deepen, pulling me toward a larger web. Miguel Mack, Preston noted from Barbara's call. She's seeking protection. The name hung heavy, a fixer for those beyond the law's reach. She's no victim, Drew realized. Active player. Full background on Barbara back to Wallace days pre-US. I ordered the command laced with the sting of 15 years deception. Preston's probe unveiled devastation. Sealed juvenile record, early criminal family links, nursing career derailed by dropped drug theft charges. Sir, he said softly, she wasn't drawn in, she's embedded since her 20s. The blow landed like a gut punch, sensory flood, heart pounding, room spinning, the metallic taste of betrayal sharp on my tongue. Our marriage, Sarah's upbringing, the legacy I'd protected, all illusions. Barbara hadn't stumbled. She'd seized our union, gradually turning it into cover. How long, based on trials from early on, her business consulting aligned with a fizzled military contractor probe. Spying 16 years, I uttered words, ash bitter, shielding crimes, mining, contracts and intel. Drew's hand on my shoulder grounded me. Sarah's at greater risk. If Barbara's cover cracks, she'll eliminate witnesses. The game shifted, not stray wife, but decades-deep infiltration unraveling. Malcolm played pawn to her queen, but she was the true predator. And in Denver's underbelly, unseen forces assaulted his network as feds closed in. Too many threads, unknowns multiplying. I'd entered a war zone blind to all foes, but the sweet revenge lay in exposing them, turning their manipulations against them with ruthless precision. Across town in the Denver FBI field office, Agent Lauren Benson, sharp as a blade, pored over case files scattered like battlefield intel, her third coffee cooling untouched. The 8-month grind on story construction had painted it as more than a laundering hub, a nexus threading municipal graft to military contractor scams. The breakthrough, anonymous tips flooding and ironclad financials recordings, photos, evidence that would have taken years to unearth, delivered by some phantom, with resources rivaling my own, poised to topple Malcolm's house of cards. Her partner, Agent Jaime Ogden, wrapped the doorframe. Developments on Story 3, associates hospitalized overnight claiming ambushes by unknowns. Benson set her mug down, the bitter brew mirroring the twist, claiming footage shows them starting scraps with civilians who fought back like pros, military precision. A psychological siege eroding Malcolm's ranks without crossing lines, the intrigue pulling me deeper into shadows I hadn't mapped. The phone pierced the air, our Assistant Director, Frank Morrison from D.C. Benson's status on Story Denver's heating up. Your case is now priority. Close to arrest, sir, but NSA intercepts suggest infiltration of contractor networks via a long-term honey trap. The scope balloon national security compromised. Accelerate, Morrison urged. If Story smells feds, witnesses vanish. Benson hung clocks ticking Malcolm's paranoia DC pressure and this parallel operator turning the screws. Meanwhile, in a nondescript safe house, Barbara 58 and colder than I'd ever imagined faced Miguel, Mac 40, and deceptively calm his violent ease, a tool Rick had recommended. Your husband's reputation precedes him, Mac said, scanning the dossier. Military vet, special ops founder, global reach. Sure you want war with that? Barbara's reply dripped disdain. Nathaniel's formidable abroad, but here emotionally off balance. Malcolm and I planned this for 2 years. Planned what? Her smile chilled. His contracts top 200 million security clearances trust. An ugly divorce instability claims fabricated ops dirt. Mac pieced it, ruin his business. Ruined it meant by an air fatally. Unbeknownst to her, Mac was federal bait turned 6 months prior, every word wired to Benson's team, her schemes unraveling in real time. Back at Blackwater, my team's dig pierced deeper, the hum of servers and coffee's acrid scent fueling the hunt. Preston uncovered Barbara's pre-marriage trails, offshore payments from espionage-linked accounts. Not just enabling Malcolm, she's fed overseas client ops to hostile players. Drew demanded hostile. Chinese intel, Russian contractors, Iranian proxies. Advanced knowledge on missions for a decade, timings, personnel, objectives. The betrayal surged like bile, emotional depths cracking open every teammate. Endangered clients' exposed lives lost traceable to her whispers. Men I'd mentored buried because of leaks from my own bed. Assume they know our playbook, Drew warned. I stared out the window at the industrial sprawl, threat matrix spinning my life's work, tainted self-respect demanding I excise the rot. Relocate critical ops to backup, I ordered. 48 hours full, 8 for essentials. Files gear people assume compromise. As they mobilized, the scope hit not marriage or Malcolm's crimes alone, but foreign spies, federal hunts, and syndicates converging on my fracture point. My phone buzzed unknown text. We need to talk. You're not alone hunting, a friend. Coordinates downtown midnight. Drew eyed it trap. Possibly, I conceded, but someone's gutting Malcolm while we plan. Evening fell forces aligning Benson prepping warrants via Max feeds. Barbara and Malcolm scheming my fall blind to recordings. Unknowns pressing their assault. The abandoned warehouse in Denver's industrial sprawl loomed like a relic of forgotten wars. Rusted beams groaning under wind-shattered windows, whispering isolation. The perfect veil for secrets that could topple empires. I arrived at 11:45 p.m., 15 minutes early, as doctrine demanded my team in Overwatch their positions, a web of shadows I'd spun from 40 years' wisdom. The metallic chill seeped through my jacket, heightening every sense, distant traffic, a low hum, gravel crunching underfoot, the weight of my concealed sidearm, a familiar anchor against the unknown. Drew's voice crackled in my ear. Sir, 3 counter-surveillance teams spotted. Serious muscle. Midnight struck and a figure materialized from the gloom, a woman in her 40s moving with predatory grace, Elaine but radiating backed-up confidence. Mr. Adams, she said, halting 10 feet away. Thanks for coming. Agent Lauren Benson, FBI, Financial Crimes, Federal. I replied, studying her poised eyes sharp as intel briefs. Not expected. Your mess complicates things. Yonard, Malcolm's story is crumbling under multi-front pressure. Your private crusade disrupts my 8-month probe. Unaware of any probe. Plenty you're blind to, Benson shot back. Like your wife's crimes predating your marriage by 15 years, she's no wayward spouse. She's a career operator who latched onto you opportunistically. The words landed heavy, stirring the emotional storm I'd caged since the assault, the raw betrayal gnawing at my core yet fueling a deeper resolve. What operation? Intel harvesting, financial leverage, federal evasion. Your background clearances and business web made you prime for exploitation. Her empire stretches 3 states, marriage, her shield. She edged closer, voice dropping. But truth, Barbara Adams doesn't serve Malcolm's story, he serves her. The reframing hit like a tactical pivot. Malcolm no seducer, just a pawn in Barbara's decades-long game. Construction laundering Kowalski ties all trace to her, my union a convenient facade she'd twisted gradually into armor. And now, her web phrase federal scrutiny, your return targeted hits on her network. Not yours. Benson's grim smile. No professional ops military grade, hinting foreign intel or elite private force. Theories. She peddled U.S. contractor secrets to hostiles. If a buyer uncovered her multi-selling, they'd raise her before we expose vulnerabilities. Exactly me ensnared in a shadow war crooks, feds unknowns deadlier than both. Drew's urgent whisper. Movement vehicles from 3 sides. Benson tensed hand to holster. Not mine. Engines roared encircling with precision, high beams slicing the night like searchlights. Why meet? She pressed. Your wife knows sources in enforcement contracting and secure vaults. Trap for who? Both. She's pitted sides, manipulating from invisibility, but desperation breeds fatal slips. Doors exploded open, tactical geared figures swarming not coordinated pros, but thugs in military drag. Federal agents, Benson barked, drawing. Drop weapons. Gunfire answered, bullets ricocheting off concrete, acrid smoke burning my nostrils, not at her, at me. Assassination masked as a botched raid. I dove behind, barriers, sparks flying hard, thundering with the old adrenaline rush. Emotional depth cracking, Sarah's bruises, flashing Barbara's lies, a venom in my veins. Drew not feds chatter in foreign tongues. Explosions rocked the exterior, Overwatch under siege, the ambush, a diversion for broader strikes. Benson, I shouted amid chaos. Who knew this meat? My team, she fired back, dropping an assailant with surgical aim. Unless compromised. The epiphany struck Barbara's net-wove corrupt agents, tainted military reaching. Beyond imagination. My phone buzzed mid-firefight. Barbara's text, goodbye, darling. Thanks for 15 wonderful years. Don't worry about Sarah, she'll be cared for. Attached video timestamps Sarah unconscious in a clinical room. Monitors beeping IV. Dripping my 25-year-old daughter, fierce investigator, reduced to leverage. The sight ignited a pure rage, sensory overload. Gunfire's thunder sweat stinging, his betrayal's emotional vice tightening. She'd stolen my child. My daughter, they have her. Benson nailed another. Survive this first. If she's purging, Sarah's not alone in peril. The warehouse erupted into war, US pinned in a tempest of corrupt feds, foreign hands, a network playing all against each other for years. The warehouse clash dragged on for 17 agonizing minutes, in eternity, where every crack of gunfire and acrid puff of cordite drilled into my senses, reawakening the phantom echoes of old battlefields. Smoke choked the air, thick and bitter, as I crouched behind shattered crates, the sting of a graze on my arm, a sharp reminder that at 65, survival hinged on cunning, not endurance. When the haze cleared, 8 assailants lay sprawled, their gear telling a damning tale, military grade. Arms sourced through clean channels, corruption snaking into defense procurement like venom in veins. Benson knelt by a corpse, rifling pockets for ID. Mercenaries, not agents, but they knew our setup positions, protocols. My earpiece flickered back. Sir, heavy losses. Preston hit, Jordan pinned. These are operators, not thugs. Drew's status cut through, exfil routes blocked, surrounded with pro-precision. Elimination LP. Benson rose, face grim. Adams grasped this coordination intel depth resources. Your wife's not linked to crooks. She's orchestrating a full intel machine with foreign backing. Chinese, Russian, both per signatures. Selling U.S. secrets to rivals, your marriage is her camouflage. Sarah's no mere pawn. She's groomed potential intel access via family ties, future asset from cradle. The implications crashed like waves. Sarah's sharp mind, school networks and military circles. Barbara planting seeds since stepping into our lives. We bolted amid fresh blast vehicles mimicking feds closing in. Deceptions blurring reality. My backup scanned frequencies, Benson gasped. Warrants out for you, team arms trafficking, Mercops U.S. conspiracy. Evidence fabricated by her hostile payments in your name, doctored audio terror weapon sales. The trap's genius struck. Barbara hadn't just spied. She'd primed my destruction, wielding the government as hammer. Fugitives now. Only her rules, Benson fired back. My probe's intercepts prove fakes. Issue reaching untainted authorities. Explosions thundered, thermal scans, piercing smoke, overwhelmed in moments. Drew urgently. Helos inbound, federal marks, but wrong codes treat hostile. Agreed. Shadow protocol. Blackwater's doomsday total blackout, assume breach, operate in enemy seas with unknown fangs. Benson queried. Shadow. Never meant for home soil, go dark, no comms, digital void. Her net taints enforcement. Standard channels are traps. Then Sarah's rescue. My smile iced. Hunt old school, 40 years hostile ground playbook. But escape first attackers, tightening helos, deploying elites, corrupt backing endless. Benson reluctant. My files hint rival in her web systematic hits on associates past week. The unknown striking Malcolm's crew. Not unknown Chinese cell she double-crossed. Exclusive U.S. intel paid for, but she hawked to Russians, Iranians. Betrayal's price permanent. Footsteps echoed, teams converging, seconds from overrun. Contact them. You propose what? Enemy of enemies, our lone shot. Geopolitics fade against saving my blood. Treason Adams. If caught and if the betrayed system's already rotten. As figures breached entrances, the patriotic core I'd defended fractured daughter's life-tipping scales. The Chinese safe house masqueraded as a mundane Denver apartment block, but inside pulsed a hive of espionage tech screens flickering with encrypted feeds. The faint ozone scent of servers humming sterile air thick with the weight of uneasy pacts. Agent Benson sat across from Colonel Chinwei, 55, and exuding the poised lethality of a career operative, her calm facade barely veiling decades of shadows. We'd fled the warehouse via their timely intervention operatives, who'd shadowed Barbara's net longer than any of us, pulling us from the brink with clinical efficiency. Mrs. Adams plays a perilous game, Chin said in flawless English, her voice smooth as silk over steel. Payments from 3 rival services for identical intel convinced her deception eternal. Benson leaned in, tracking how long. 18 months. Started as an asset with U.S. military access, evolved when we uncovered sales to Russians and Iranians. The revelation stirred my gut, the emotional churn of betrayal, deepening a raw ache for the trust she'd eroded, yet sharpening my strategic edge. Chin eyed me. What do you seek? Sarah's image burned in my mind, her fierce spirit drugged into vulnerability. From us. Adams threatens ops across borders. Her exposure risks our governmental embeds. Eliminate her and we grant your daughter's coordinates, extraction aid, and proof that your charges are forged. Benson bristled. Murder. Solving mutual woes, Chin countered. She's betrayed all crooks' services kin. She'll purge threats, Sarah included. The truth hollowed me once Barbara erased risks. My 25-year-old investigator ally became expendable, her knowledge of ops a liability and disappearance. Chin's tablet lit with live surveillance, Malcolm's penthouse, Rick's home, Barbara's haunts, their scope staggering. Our network's vast monitoring her months laundering graft intel trades. She's prepping to call all Malcolm first. He thinks partner. Tool for contracts, corruption. Elimination plan from inception. Additional displays unveiled, records intercepts footage, Barbara as puppeteer, strings spanning decades. Your probe, Chin nodded to Benson, anticipated, false leads to hasten timelines, call witnesses pre-arrest. Accept us. Hence tonight agent and contractor, slain in criminal shootout, neat narrative. My phone vibrated, another from Barbara video of Sarah in a facility, conscious but bound, vitals monitored, drugs keeping her pliant for transit. The sight fueled rages, fire sensory blaze, pulse, thundering fists, clenching on cold metal, emotional depths, cracking love, twisted into a weapon. Drugging her for extraction. Chin confirmed, routes to non-extradition, Haven's wealth paving way. Sarah's leverage against surviving foes, vengeance, child buys time, money can't. Barbara's machine, awed, 15 years harvesting my world, contingencies for probes, betrayals, even my discovery. Show her location, Chin paused. Risks abound, associates, security, corrupt agents guard her. Assault, suicidal. Then psychological warfare, her flaw control obsession. Feed fakes, compromised routes, arrested contacts, frozen assets. Panic forces errors. Benson grasped, irrational haste exposes cracks. Feeds showed Sarah's sight guard systems a direct hit folly, especially with her as shield. Consider your team's survivors trapped at your facility, feds encircling, arrest imminent, without intervention. What intervention? Cooperation among usual adversaries. As dawn loomed, the alliance formed in my mind. Chinese intel, rogue FBI, my besieged team against Barbara's hydra of wife officials and foreign webs. Irony wasn't lost. Patriotism now meant partnering with foreigners to unearth homegrown treason. Saving Sarah required trusting foes. Colonel Chin, I said, resolve hardening. Your needs. Her smile, professional frost. Be what she's painted you, 15 years, ruthless, lawless operator with endless means for illicit ends. The derelict medical facility on Denver's fringes had stood shuttered for 3 years, yet faint power hums betrayed selective upkeep, the air showered outside thick with overgrown weeds and distant traffic's murmur. Through thermal binoculars, the layout glowed 12 heat signatures patrolling the main floor. Reinforced entries, and in the basement, 2 forms in a monitoring room. Sarah and a tech, her vitals steady under sedation. But schematics revealed worse, explosive rigs at key points ready to bury intruders alive. Chin's encrypted radio crackled. Modifications, heavy doors, armored systems, upgraded charges, structural. Benson added, fits her profile, survival over all, family included. I adjusted my gear at 65, the night's chill seeping into joints. But strategic fire burned hotter. The emotional pull of Sarah's captivity, a daughter's trust I'd vowed to honor, now leveraged in this endgame. The alliance around the perimeter felt surreal. Chinese operatives, off-grid, FBI, my extracted survivors, a motley force I'd never envisioned commanding. Drew's earpiece, Barbara monitors police, knows task force positions tracking us too. All electronics compromised, I replied. Visual signals only. The assault hinged on multiplicity pressures, forcing Barbara's hand, limiting her escapes. But my phone lit with her final taunt. I know you're near, darling, but I'm not solo. Sarah's not my sole policy. Video attached, not just Sarah, but Preston, unconscious and wired like her, my 38-year-old cyber protege, presumed lost in the warehouse blaze. Chin, 2 hostages possibly split, unknown safeguards, and he's had hours to spill ops safe houses plans, including this. Drew Grimm, missing since ambush. The scope ballooned, our playbook exposed. Troy, electromagnetic surge from target, military jamming live. Chin, she's rushing endgame, prepping contingencies. Binoculars caught movement, the tactical figures prepping siege or flight, not evasion. Realization dawned, no run. Elimination of all threats, then vanish anew. Sarah and Preston as bait, I announced the trap's elegance, a bitter twist drawing us into her kill zone. Chin building wired to collapse enough boom for blocks. Choice loomed aboard, abandon them, or press risking all. Drew. Your call, sir, we're in. Preston's ours, she betrayed us all. Chin, her plans time-dependent. Force our rhythm raids on safe houses, associate arrests, asset freezes, comms, faking foreign betrayals to USS overload her. I understood chaos, compelling choice, detonate or flee. If final solution, 3 minutes max for extraction. As sun dipped, I prepped the op that could save or doom us, the woman I'd cherished 16 years, Sarah's stepmother, now my deadliest foe. She'd studied my tactics, priorities, limits for protection. But one blind spot, what I'd become stripped of husband-father guise, a predator unbound. Contingencies triggered, feds swarming her bolts holes allies, cuffed citywide accounts, iced intercepts screaming betrayal. Jamming spiked her timeline, fracturing. From afar, I directed visual cues, flashing team infiltrating shadows. Chaos erupted, alarms, blaring guards, scrambling, my heart pounding with sensory rush, distant blasts, smoke's acrid bite, emotional tide of reclaiming dignity. Drew's squad breached basement amid pandemonium, extracting Sarah and Preston as charges armed. Upstairs, I confronted her, Barbara cornered, eyes wide in rare panic. You underestimated, I said, voice steel. Her empire crumbled in flames, but only one walked free, the man she'd forged in betrayal's fire. 6 months later, the Denver federal courthouse buzzed with a charged hush, media lenses glinting like predatory eyes. The scent of polished wood and stale coffee mingling in the air as families and officials leaned forward. Judge Patricia Morrison's gavel echoed my inner finality, reading verdicts in the Denver conspiracy saga, a web I'd helped unravel, each word a drop of vindication for the self-respect they'd nearly stolen. Barbara Adams' life without parole for treason, espionage, murder, conspiracy, terrorism, her network's exposure sparking the largest counterintelligence sweep in decades. Malcolm's story, 25 years for laundering, racketeering, conspiracy. His construction facade collapsed in weeks. Rick Adams, 15 years for corruption, reduced by snitching, but justice's sting lingered in his hollow gaze. I sat in the gallery with Sarah now, 26, her recovery, a testament to resilience. Physical scars faded, psychological ones, mending through specialists. Yet she channeled that fire into aiding Blackwater, her data skills sharpening our edge. The American dream rebuilt from ruins. Preston Mears healed from captivity, approached with the team, company-cleared protocols, fortified evaluations, ensuring no hidden fractures. Sir, new contract counterintelligence for contractors. Our infiltration scars make us prime hunters. The irony sweetened it, paid to preempt Barbara's before they struck. Agent Benson joined it, promoted to lead a task force dismantling foreign nets on U.S. soil. Your alliance rolled up 12 states' webs, thank you. Chin and hers. Officially mutual threat aid, unofficially select returns, home charge free. The pact's necessity lingered, complicated but effective, strange allies yielding justice. As we exited, Sarah linked arms, sunlight cutting the chill. Dad, trust again. Earned, not given, I replied, her presence a balm to emotional depths scarred by deceit. Careful choices. You okay, company, me restarting. My first true smile in months, spent 15 years guarding illusions, now real bonds with my unbreakable daughter. If I falter, face it together, no veils, just us. Heading to the car, a prickle raised my nape. The figure across the street, auburn hair altered, but those calculating eyes unchanged. Barbara sentenced to life, yet this shadow hinted, escape, new identity, resources, a vendetta simmering for those who'd raised her throne. Trial closed, but revenge's dish chilled eternal. Justice tasted sweet, yet vigilance etched the bittersweet truth some wars never fully end. If this tale of betrayal, resilience, and hard-won self-respect fired you up or hit close to home, smash that like button right now to show your support and help spread the inspiration. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do in Nathaniel's shoes? Share your own story of overcoming deceit. We're building a powerful community here, one voice at a time. And for your next dose of sweet revenge, click the video on screen. Now see you there.